Welcome back to season 4 of Get to the Joke. I'm Mark Stoudemire, your host, and today our guest is James Tierney, who is the owner of the Happy Valley Improv Club at the Blue Brick Theater in State College, Pennsylvania. This James, I've known James for several years now from our mutual work with Wisecrackers Comedy, who also hosts some shows in James's theater. This is just another segment in our um, kind of our little series of kind of highlighting some of the smaller comedy venues that exist within Pennsylvania and giving them some of the recognition that they're due. So thank you, James, for being with me today.
I'm super excited to be here and thank you for asking me.
No. Thank you for agreeing to do this. I'm super stoked to have you here. Um, I guess the first question is, I know just from reading the website, there is such a passion in improv that kind of got this whole thing going. So, where did this passion for improv come from? And I guess my second follow-up question would be, how did you explore improv from being from State College, Pennsylvania, where there's not really a scene there to start with?
Yeah, for sure. I got the improv bug when I was an undergraduate student at Western New England College. That's a small, overpriced liberal arts school in Springfield, Massachusetts. My sophomore year as a liberal arts major, I needed to have an art on my degree, and the options I had were paper making or improv comedy. So improv comedy stuck out to me. I was always outgoing, kind of a goofball, and I had wanted to do some stand up. So I thought, oh, this would be a great way to do it. So I took the improv class and absolutely fell in love. Took a second level. So in undergrad, I ended up with 32 weeks of improv training from Hillary Bucks is her name. She was the theater director, and she spent a lot of time at Second City.
Oh, wow.
So she was great. I still stay in touch with her. So
Nice.
from there, I moved out to the LA area, Orange County, California, to do my graduate work in economics, continued to do comedy while I was out there, mainly improv. Fast forward another decade, I got a job at Penn State teaching economics, which is what my, degree and everything is in. Wanted to continue doing improv. I think it's very important for everybody to be creative. And I think improv stretches your brain in ways that many other things do not. And there was no scene, like you were saying, there was no scene. The only scene is a couple of student groups, which are great. Full Ammo Improv and Derby are the two great improv and sketch groups on Penn State's campus that people should check out on main campus. But as a new faculty member, I didn't want to be, telling jokes on stage with a bunch of undergrads. I wanted my own thing. So I luckily found a couple of other people who were interested in improv, and we decided to start a little club that has now turned into having its own theater and doing weekly shows.
Well, that's awesome, James. That's really cool. So you started doing stand up back in college as a kind of just getting some credits for your undergrad degree, and then fell in love with it. Um, I guess growing up, how much was comedy a part of kind of like I'm assuming that you didn't just get into improv in college. I'm assuming you had some background comedy in some aspect, like you enjoyed watching it, or you big fan of Who Lines It Anyways, or anything like that. Kind of give me the background, like little boy James, and what comedy meant to you at that age.
A lot of times I listen to podcasts or watch interviews, and the people are like, oh, when I was 3 years old, I'd stay up late every Saturday and watch Saturday Night Live, or, I'd listen to Richard Pryor on repeat. And I don't have any vivid memories of anything like that. I remember my family growing up would watch comedies. I really liked
Mhm.
a lot of, like the slapstick comedy movies, the Dumb and Dumber, Ace Ventura. That didn't age well, but funny in the times. So I liked comedy in that route. I never did theater. I was never on a stage or anything like that. Really was in college. It was an opportunity to do something new, and I decided to do it. And around the same time was when Last Comic Standing was kind of starting and getting pretty popular.
Mhm.
So our campus activities board did last comic standing like at Winnick at the Western New England College. So I think it was just called Winnick's Last Comic Standing, something
Yeah.
very basic. And my roommate was running the the club at the time, the campus activities board, and they said that the numbers were a little low and was like, hey, you're kind of, funny. Like, have you thought of doing stand up? And I'm like, yeah, I have. And so I signed up and did that. That was my first stand up
Oh,
gig, which was
nice.
about the same time I started doing improv. So there's
Okay.
no, romantic story of me cuddled up with a record player in my bedroom trying to, stay up past my bedtime or anything. It really blossomed when I got into college. And I tell my current students that because when we teach improv at the Blue
Hmm.
Brick Theater, we might have people who come in their 40s, 50s. That's the
Oh,
first time they've
nice.
ever stepped on a stage. And let them know that, you can still do comedy, you can still be a comedian. There's no age limit.
Nice. So I guess what held you back from going all in on improv? You mentioned you went to Orange County, California, but that was more so to pursue your already blossoming economics career. How come you didn't try like I'm gonna go all in on either going, I'm not sure if Second City folded by that point, but Second City or the
Yeah.
Groundlings Theater or anything like that. What kind of kept you from going all in at at that juncture, that young point in your life?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've thought of that. It seems like a question my therapist might ask me. I believe I've always had a safety net
Hmm.
and never really took that leap until kind of recently. So when I started doing, I wanted to do comedy. I wanted to do improv, but I didn't just move to LA. Like there are people who just like, I'm going to move to LA and live like off of nothing. And I grew up, relatively poor. My parents gave us all that they could, but they did
Hmm.
that by taking on a lot of credit card debt and,
Hmm.
kind of very common story in, rural America. But I felt like I was given this opportunity to not live that paycheck to paycheck life and to get a graduate degree and get a stable job. So I always kind of clung to that
Hmm.
and never dove all in. I have lots of friends who did, and some of them now are, have great comedic careers and are doing things, but a lot of them, struggled for a very long time and continue to. So I don't think there's a right way. Yeah, that's why I didn't. I think there was just an underlying, I don't know if it was a fear or just I enjoyed the safety of this is where my paycheck is coming from. But I don't regret doing what I
Yeah.
did, but
No,
I
I
always
mean,
think of like what if? Yeah.
being a professor of economics is really cool. I mean, that's really, I mean, how many people in this country can say that they teach at a huge state college, like Penn State and economics.
Yeah.
That's wild. So hey, definitely worked out, man. I kind of take me a little bit kind of sidestepping a little bit. If I took a look at your calendar right now, or maybe even just your comedy life in general, what if it was a pie chart? What percentage would be you doing improv and what percentage would be stand up? Because they're two very
Yeah.
different fields. And I
It
don't know which
right.
one you kind of lean in more.
Yeah, right now it would be 95% improv and
O-
5% stand up.
Okay.
I teach a stand up class at the Blue Brick Theater. Usually every 6 weeks we start a new class, and I'm teaching every other one of those basically. And with those, there will be a showcase. And whenever Wisecrackers wants to do a show at the theater, I'm usually the MC, but that's basically it.
Hmm.
We do hold a weekly comedy writers group for free at the theater every Sunday at 5 p.m. I'll go to most of those and just kind of spew some ideas out what I like. But to be honest, the pie chart wouldn't even be that much improv. It'd be a lot of business,
Okay.
and it would be something like 50% business, 40% improv, and 10% stand up.
Okay.
I think what a lot of people don't realize how much work goes on behind the scenes just to keep a theater running,
Oh yeah.
barely profitable. Uh, because everyone only sees the highlights, right?
Mhm.
You show up to a show on Friday night and it's sold out, and you're like, wow, James has got this great gig. But no one's there on a Wednesday afternoon when you're counting the cash box, or
Mhm.
no one's there at the meeting on a Thursday with the insurance company because your premiums have gone up 40% because someone fell through the stage, right? No one's at those meetings. They don't see that stuff. They just see the big festival and they see the great shows.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that would my pie chart would include a lot more business than I think most
And we're
people would
definitely going to
imagine.
get into that because I'm trying to just even conceptualize how you manage running a whole, teaching how many, I don't know how many kids. I never went to a school the size of State College or Penn State, I mean, but I can't even fathom how you would teach, I'm assuming hundreds,
Well,
maybe
I
thousands
I mean
of.
that's the jump that I made. I quit Penn State in the fall of 21.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I thought
Yeah.
you were toggling between both. Oh,
No.
interesting. Okay. Definitely want to explore that for sure. Hi. I'm assuming if you're still watching at this point that you're enjoying the episode. If you like this episode and you want to see more, please do me a small favor and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That is awesome. I love seeing subscribers go up. That means people are enjoying what I'm doing, which makes me feel good. So please do that if you're really liking this. And if you want to, check out my website, markstod.com. Please feel free to contact me on the website. I respond to every email. Every email I respond to. Leave a comment. And the thing, too, I get back to most of those as well. And that's it for me. Enjoy the rest of the episode. So tell me then, I feel like every good origin story happens in the basement of a church, which is where the
Yeah.
Happy Valley Improv Club started to come together. Now, where I guess how did you came to State College as a professor, so you weren't a student at the time. How did you find, I mean, I'm guessing social media, but how did you find the group of people that had shared interest with you with improv that wanted to come together and like kind of, I guess, learn from you? Because I doubt they had any experience. You're probably the only one coming to the table with any kind of experience and mentoring.
Yeah, when I was in California, when I was in Southern California, my very good friend Josh Nichols, who now co-owns an improv theater in Denver called Rise Comedy,
Nice.
we decided to go to what was a new camp. It was a 3-night, 4-day improv camp for adults. And it was up the coast in California, about 3 hours. So we decided we would go together. We didn't know anybody else there. It's called Improv Utopia.
Hmm.
And we had a great time. Ended up going like 3 or 4 times out there in California before I moved back east. They have another one now on the East Coast in Stroudsburg, PA. I knew that they had started one of those, but it's always Labor Day weekend, which is like the first weekend of Penn State return to campus. So for the first couple years that I was here in State College, I didn't go to Improv Utopia East, is what they call it. It was just getting a new job is just really busy. So this one woman who's here at Penn State, Andrea McCloskey, she's a professor of education. She had always been interested in comedy and wanted to do something, as she says, scary to show her 5-year-old daughter that she can do scary things. So she signed up for this Improv Utopia East and showed up, not knowing anybody, never doing improv before, and said, you know what? I'm just going to do this. So that happens. And someone there says, "Hey, you should get in touch with James Tierney. He just started at Penn State and he used to do improv." So she comes back to State College and sends me an email. I get a random email out of the blue from someone I've never met before that says, "Hey, I heard you like improv. Let's play together." And I was like, "Is this spam? Like, I don't know what this is." So I look up who it is, and it seems like a real person. And she said that she has another guy that she had met in her department who used to do improv in Minneapolis. So the three of us met outside of the Kern Graduate Building
Nice.
and just kind of met each other and said, "Sure, let's hang out and do some improv." A couple weeks later, we found a spot in the basement of St. Andrew's Church. It's a Episcopalian church here in State College. There's a lot of research done by me to make sure that their beliefs in inclusion, acceptance, diversity, etc., kind of aligned with what we would want to do with improv, and it did. So we decided to start meeting there, and then in January we got an email from this guy moving up here from Charleston. His name was Nate Rufo, and he ended up joining us and to be the four founders of Happy Valley Improv that got started later that year.
Very cool. So I guess I mean, you tell me, can you do like those early days, can you do improv with just three people?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our groups at Happy Valley Improv are two-person groups, two-person long-form groups. I've seen many a one-person show as well.
Okay.
Improvisation is, improvisation at its core is just responding to the unexpected. So if you can respond productively to everything, you can do it by yourself. I mean, people talk to themselves all the time, and that's improvisation.
Improv
So
is
yeah,
wild. It's I mean, the skill level to do it. Now, let me ask you this. In your experience, since you've seen both sides of the coin here, does a comic who's good at crowd work, which is not me, does that work well in the improv world, or are those just two things? Is that just a myth that you can bust right now?
I believe improv and stand-up are much further away on the art scale than most people believe.
Okay.
Um, I I think, and here's the main thing. To be a good improviser, you have to honestly not be trying to make people laugh all the time.
Hmm.
To be a good stand-up, you have to be trying to make people laugh all the time. Like that's the core at it. To improvise, you need to draw audiences in with kind of base scenes and base realities, and then know when to play a game or know when to, kind of turn it on. Whereas with stand-up, if people are coming to a show wanting to laugh and they're like, I'm not coming to a theater performance, I'm coming,
Hmm.
monkey make me laugh type thing.
Hmm.
So they're already judging you. So I think they're far away now. Do I think learning how to do improv and do it right, can that help you on the stand-up stage? Absolutely. It can help you feel more comfortable responding to hecklers and or going off script if it feels right. Do I think that learning how to write a joke and spending some time with yourself and what you think funny, does that help with improv? Absolutely. I think it helps you find little nuggets of jokes and scenes. So I do think there's some overlap, but it's not as much overlap as most people think.
Okay. Thanks for explaining that. That's awesome. So tell me how the four of you went. So in the basement of the church, were you guys just working out the improv, or were you actually putting on shows to the public at this point?
So our first meeting was the Wednesday night after inauguration in 2016. So,
Oh wow.
there's
So
a
not
lot
that
to
long
talk
ago.
about. So there's a lot to talk about. And, for the first few months, it was really Sam Tanner and I teaching Andrea, our own philosophies of improv. We
Hmm.
came from very different backgrounds when it comes to improv training. So we were just kind of going through exercises that we knew, having a good time. We had no ambitions of doing shows or classes or whatnot. Nate joined us in January, and we met weekly, not missing a single week between January and the fall of 2017.
Oh, nice.
And all we did really was we would hang out, we would laugh, and then we would do some improv. Usually Nate, Sam, and I would take one week where we would plan the hour and a half or 2 hours that we were going to hang out. This is what we were going to do. And honestly, we didn't know what was going to happen. We kind of just let things go
Hmm.
where they were going to go. And turns out we ended up getting a grant from the university to do some teaching stuff, which turned into a relationship with a local theater called the State Theater. And they encouraged us to do some shows. So the four of us did our first four shows, was just the four of us, an hour and a half, which is a lot for four people. Those went well, so we decided to start doing classes, form an LLC, and we've just organically grown ever since. So yeah,
Nice. Now, when the school gives you a grant and you start putting on shows, I don't teach me how this works. I don't know anything about this. Do you take 100% of the money that goes ticket sales, or does the school take something back in like
yeah.
the
So the
give?
university gave us a grant to put on basically an 8 week seminar
Okay.
that was immersive and improv theater to help with teaching and pedagogy.
Hmm.
So they gave us about $9,000 to help cover the costs of a few things. We ended up buying some journals for the individuals. We rented the theater space for 8 weeks. We flew in an amazing improviser from
Oh,
California. Her name is Dana Powell, who's also coming to our festival this year.
Nice.
She's been in Bridesmaids on Modern Family. She's wonderful. So the university paid for all of that for us to put on this 8-week seminar that was a hit with all the people who ended up applying and then going through the 8 weeks with us. Through that relationship that we made with the State Theater, they gave us they got us in touch with the Barbara Palmer grant. They were micro grants in the arts in the community. So we got a $750 grant, which would cover 3 of our 4 shows at the State Theater. So the State Theater agreed to rent us $2 or $250 a show, and we did 4 shows: September, October, November, December. That was the fall of 2017. And we decided, okay, we need to make enough money over the 250. We need to make enough money in the first 3 shows to then pay for the 4th show. And we sold out every show
Nice.
because it was something brand new here. No one knew about it.
Hmm.
Um, and so we had a little bit of money in our pocket. I think the 4 of us each put in $500 at the beginning to like get the account started with 2 grand. And by the end of the first year, we took our $500 out because we had sold enough tickets to cover our costs and to just give us our initial investment back.
Very
So yeah,
cool.
that's how that worked.
Very cool. So I guess now tell me the point where you leave your lucrative job as a professor, and now did the others leave as well? You said some of them were also involved in the school, or were you the only
Yeah.
one that left, or were?
Yeah. So fall of so then let's just fast forward. Let's fast
Mhm.
forward. We have a pandemic, right? There's that whole
Yeah,
pandemic
I saw
thing.
that you guys opened in 2021. I was like, also
Correct.
that's when real estate was super high as well. Like rent and real estate was like at the pinnacle of during
Yeah,
2021.
we got lucky. So we were a very nomadic company prior to the pandemic. We did our shows at the State Theater. We did larger fundraising shows at this art center called Three Dots.
Mhm.
We did all of our classes at the Performing Arts School of Central Pennsylvania, which is a dance studio for
Oh,
kids. We would rent it out after 8 p.m. to do our classes. And all of our workshops we would have to do either on site at businesses, or we would rent a hotel conference room or something like that. So we're very nomadic, which has there's a lot of troubles that come with that.
hmm.
However, it was a blessing in disguise when the pandemic occurred because that meant that our overhead was basically nothing. I think our burn rate was like $200 a month. And that was because we paid $50 a month for accounting software, and we paid, $50 a month for Zoom, and then $100 a month in other small like things. So we were very, very lean during the pandemic. So the first part of the pandemic, we were doing online shows to benefit other local arts organizations. We gave over $1,000 to the State Theater. We
Cool.
did a big fundraiser for the NAACP. We did a bunch of stuff because we didn't need the money at that time. We had, I think we had around $8,000 to $10,000 just sitting in our bank account that we, kind of sat on and maintained throughout the pandemic. So in December of 2020, we're about a month and a half out from vaccines, and
Mhm.
we were under the impression that people were sick and tired of COVID, and when vaccines would become available, everyone would just get the vaccine, and then it would be gone, and it would be kind of like polio. Well, that didn't happen, as we all know. But in December of 2020, the 4 of us, the 4 owners, sat down and said, well, where do we want to see ourselves coming out of this pandemic? We've pretty much outgrown, the State Theater space that we were working at. Um, we were doing 4 shows a month, so 2 shows every other Thursday night, and we were doing classes like I said, at a dance studio. We're doing workshops everywhere. So on the business side of things, we were spending a lot of money on rent without even having our own space. So
Mhm.
we were like, let's just look around town. And I was on a call with a woman who owned a children's makery, a make space, a craft space downtown State College, which we had worked with before to hold some of our community events at. And she had mentioned that she was trying to get out of her lease because the space was a little too big. I ended up going and looking at that space and said, I think we could make this work. We ended up having to get an architect to come in and do drawings. We had to, go to and petition the State College Borough to allow us, to do this type of business in there. That was the entire winter, basically January through April of 2021, until we finally signed our lease. We were able to get into the space on May 1st. About a month of $30,000 or so worth of construction we had to do, which really isn't that much.
Hmm.
Stage, lighting, curtains, painting, cleaning, all that stuff. In the middle of June, we opened for some youth camps. And then the weekend of July 9th of 2022, we held our first shows. And we've had a show every Friday night at 7 p.m. Since then, except for holidays, like holiday weekends for Christmas and Thanksgiving. Every other Friday night, we've had a show, either our regular Friday night show or like a special show for our festival or Arts Fest or first night, anything like that. Will
Okay. Well, very cool. So when you're when so it seems like this all kind of just happened very like serendipitous. You just knew, this person who had a space, it seemed perfect for you guys to come in, reached out to you, kind of the same kind of way that you guys all kind of the four you guys kind of met to begin with. Um, did tell me, I mean, you're a professor of economics. Did you just jump right into
yeah.
this, or was it like, no, we're gonna put a business plan together, we're gonna see how many years it's gonna take to get profitable? What kind of planning did you put
Yeah.
into this before this lady was like, do you want this space or whatever, before you jumped in and signed that lease?
Yeah, I did a 3-year pro forma, like, okay, I think this is what we can do in for the 3 years that we would have to sign this lease. And it made sense that, as long as we could continue to grow our classes and grow um our workshops and our corporate stuff, that we would be able to make it work. We might not be able to pay someone full time.
Hmm.
We may not be able to have staff right away, but if we all kind of roll up our sleeves and get this done, that we won't go bankrupt. We
Hmm.
we might not survive 3 years. I think we're going to now. We're doing pretty well. Um, but yeah, so like when I left, like I guess I never really answered your question
Yeah.
of like why did I leave? I left Penn State job. That was the fall of 2021. We had opened and the theater was looking to be successful. I was just not happy in my position. The department that I was in was pretty toxic. There was, a lot of top-down micromanagement, which I didn't like.
Mm.
My feelings of pedagogy and teaching and how we should be helping college age students just I wasn't in alignment with the department. They were very old school of lecture and quiz, lecture, two tests and a final, like do some paper homework. I wanted to do a lot more creative things and a lot more research backed ways of teaching. And
Makes
it's
sense.
not that they were against it, there was just always kind of pushback with it. I didn't feel supported. I didn't feel valued. I felt like just a cog in a wheel to, continue to make millions and millions of dollars for the university while they paid me just slightly enough to be quiet about it. So I decided I was going to just start my own. I have my own education company now that I do private tutoring and coaching, and like that's kind of half of my time, and the other half of my time is spent with the theater. So we take a very small. Me and the other two owners that are still left. Sam Tanner ended up moving for a job in Iowa, so the three of us take a very very small salary each month to kind of keep the place running, and then we get paid extra if we teach classes or workshops or anything like that.
Nice. So tell me why, when you went all in, that state college was where you were going to do it. Did it have to be state college? Now I know you're married, so I don't know if that had anything. If your wife had, roots there. You're not from state college originally, correct?
Correct that. My wife's from Southern California. I'm from upstate New York.
Oh,
We were just here because of the job offer at
yeah.
Penn State.
So
And so
right.
that's why we started. And like we already have the community built,
Hmm.
we already have the branding, we already have the mostly good, comments on Facebook and Google reviews. So, it just makes sense to, try and build something that'll bring other people joy.
Yeah. No,
And
I'm
that's
sure
what we're
you,
able
and
to
I'm
do.
sure you are. I just wanted to, because I have a background in business, and I appreciate. I'm also, when you talk about the fear of going into yourself, I know exactly what you're talking about. You're preaching to the choir, so I'm just like in awe that people like
Yeah.
yourself exist and take those leaps like this. So this, but like the target market, when you look at state college, does the fact that half the population leaves, come May, does that, I mean, do you, like, who do you try to target? I mean, first of all, tell me how big the theater is first. When you want to
Yeah.
pack it, when you want to pack your theater, how many seats are we talking?
So our theater capacity is 84.
Okay.
The most we ever set up for seating wise is 70. Most weekend shows we set up for 50. And we've been averaging about 35 people,
Okay.
give or take. So it's pretty good. Um,
Do you appeal to students? Is that who you try to
no,
get in?
so we have not really broken into the student market yet. We the theater is not small. The theater is too small, and we can't charge enough for tickets to make it really worth the risk to try and shove 60 drunk college students into the space. So our shows are at 7 p.m. and it's BYOB. So the crowd that we attract are usually locals or people visiting, or maybe senior students who just want to come and have a good time. The thing is there's right now there's no competition. It's not that I don't welcome competition. If someone else wants to open up an improv group, that's great. More improv, more comedy for everyone. But if you want to see a comedy show in State College, you come to the Blue Brick Theater. Like that's just what it is.
Hmm.
So even though the market, itself is small, let's say the non-student population within, a 30-minute radius or so is, less than 100,000 people. But we're really the only space for it.
Okay.
Um, and right now, like I said, right now we're trying not to grow too fast. So we do get some pressure. We don't have any investors or anything. The
Hmm.
three of us just fully own it. Right now our debt is very low, so we don't have a lot of pressure to like be profitable or to like, really increase sales. And we do have some pressure from our own community members because we have, 22 improvisers that, improv on stage for us. And they want more stage time. They would love for us to be doing 2 shows a week. But as I've told them as the business manager, I say when we start selling out regularly and then we know that adding a second show isn't going to take away,
Hmm.
I'll be more than happy to. But
Hmm.
I would rather stay, right around break even and continue to build the brand and build everything organically, not spend, tens of thousands of dollars on advertising, and just see where it takes us. I think that's the improvisational way about it. And I
Yeah.
believe if we were in a bigger market where, we were having to fight with 3 or 4 other theaters and, we had astronomical rent, like that might be a different story. But we are in a very good position at Happy Valley Improv to grow and grow the way the community wants, which has been awesome.
Nice. Now, when you describe that there is no competition, who are your, I mean, there are competitors. Would your competitors be just, streaming services? Would the competitors be I mean, the nightclubs be kind of interesting because your shows are probably earlier than people go out to the nightclubs or whatever. But who is the competition that you primarily lose customers to?
Yeah, I would say our competition is any form of entertainment. So we do shows every Friday. So some Fridays we will sell out by Thursday night online.
Hmm.
Other Fridays will only have like 10 or 11 people because there might be a big event going on at the Bryce Jordan Center. Uh,
Oh.
the State Theater might have something that's going on. So we have well, obviously we have competition in that sense. Uh, and of course, everybody's fighting for eyeballs when it comes to entertainment. And
Hmm.
as streaming options get better, as you can go online and watch comedians on Twitch, or Netflix has unlimited hours basically of comedy. That's what we're all fighting. That's what we're all fighting against. So my goal is, to really play up the user experience to get businessy.
Yeah.
Walk into the theater, you're greeted by a host, you go into this kind of magical little dark place with a purple stage, and the show starts and the music's blasting and you get to experience an improv show that no one else has experienced before and no one ever will. And
Yeah.
that's the cool thing about improv is it happens in a moment of time and it never happens again.
That is kind of neat.
It's
Never thought of it that way.
it's like stand up. I'll perform the set, and then the next night I'll perform it basically the same thing again. And
Hmm.
people will say, "Oh, you never see it the same twice." Like, well, you
Hmm.
pretty much the same, pretty much the same. Whereas improv, like completely
Yeah.
different. So, uh, just we continue to try and push that, and hope that people enjoy our shows and want to come back.
Now, how do you price your ticket? So is your sole revenue ticket sales, or do you sell food or I saw you sell gift cards online, which I encourage people to go get if you're ever going to be in the State College area. But
Yeah.
it's what goes into the credit side of the balance sheet
Yeah.
at ticket
So
sales.
for the shows itself, it's basically ticket sales,
Okay,
which are $15,
that's
$12 if
really
you're a
reasonable.
student. I think so.
Yeah.
I also made a point that I'm never going to add ticketing fees. I've never gone to a website and saw a price of a ticket and then at the end saw that there was ticketing fees on it and felt good. I've always felt upset. So I never want my customers to have that feeling. I would rather charge $18 flat
Hmm.
than charge $15 and a $3 ticketing fee. We do sell concessions, but it's $2 for a can of soda, and we buy them at Sam's Club for like 75 cents a piece and sell them
Yeah.
for $2. So it's a small profit. But once you
Hmm.
take into account inventory that's lost because things go bad or like
Hmm.
stolen or just like people spill stuff, there's no margin there. So for the shows, it's just a ticket sale. So we can't have a liquor license, as anyone who's listening to this in Pennsylvania knows. Getting liquor and beer license in Pennsylvania is absolutely, especially in state colleges, be like $2 million. So we're not going to do that.
I did hear
Uh,
it's relatively inexpensive to have a Pennsylvania only liquor license, like for Pennsylvania beer, Pennsylvania wine, Pennsylvania liquor. I've heard that. I can't verify that.
yeah,
I'm not sure
it's
if you're
it's
looking
much
into
cheaper,
that.
but there's still only a certain number that you can have in certain
Uh,
areas. And I think State College is oversold. There is like a special performing arts one, which is what some theaters have. However, there's a little bit of like there's some limitations. If I remember correctly, you can only sell like an hour before the show and then up until an hour before the show ends. So you can't like stay open later, which is really where we could make a lot of money. We can make a big dent is if we had a full bar that people could stay and hang out afterwards and have that full night experience. That's where you see a lot of comedy clubs and improv theaters around the country making their money. So our business model is really built off of our classes and then our corporate workshops.
see.
So going out to different businesses and organizations and running team building exercises,
Okay.
icebreakers, helping people with creativity, and then our own classes and selling our classes to people saying, hey, taking improv is, even if you don't want to be an improviser, it helps you with public speaking, it helps you with interviewing, it helps you think outside the box, it helps with stress relief, all this
Mhm.
stuff it helps with. So we try and fill our classes, improv, stand up. We're hoping to start a sketch program here in the next year or so. We have a youth program for 6th through 12th graders to get them started on stage. Helps a lot with stage presence, feeling comfortable in your own body. It's a very inclusive and accepting space. So that's where all the real money comes from. Honestly, our shows are basically revenue neutral.
Okay.
We hire someone at the front of house, so we have a front of house manager. He's getting there an hour and a half before the show to start cleaning and to make sure everything's set up, and then staying a half hour after the show to make sure everything is closed up. And by the time you take into account the rent of the theater and the heat or the AC we need and all that stuff, our show revenue is offset by most of the costs.
Okay. Okay. So, give me, tell me, like, I think you mentioned at the top of the interview, it's like, they see the Friday nights, but they don't see the other nights. Kind of give me a very high level a week in the life of James. I guess maybe first of all, can you start with the org structure? I know there's three owners, but and you
Yeah.
mentioned a general manager. Can you kind of tell me who's responsible for what, or just maybe how you
Yeah.
guys segregate out the responsibilities, and then kind of go into like the week of the life of your schedule, so we understand like all the work that you put into putting on these successful shows and workshops and classes.
Absolutely. I'm the business manager, so whatever that means, director of finance, CFO, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
We have Nate Rufo, who's one of the other co-founders, who's our artistic director. So he's in charge of making sure all the class curriculum is in line. He watches all the new teams to make sure that they're abiding by the way that we want our shows to look. He is doing all the auditions. He's scheduling all the shows. He does a ton of work.
Hmm.
Completely different work from what I do. More, I think it's more important, the stuff that he does. He probably thinks what I do is more important, but that's the nature of the beast of improv. Andrea McCloskey She's the third owner. She does a lot of the youth program. She does the teaching of it. She helps out with our festival. She'll pick up the pieces when we need to do a bunch of the little things. My
Okay.
wife Kim is our theater operations manager.
Nice.
So she's in charge of making sure our inventory is up to date, making sure the tech, so the sound and lights are taken care of every show. She organizes, we try and clean the theater 4 times a year. So she organizes all of that. She makes sure we have enough toilet paper, all the operation stuff that are going on day to day.
Okay.
And then we have a front of house manager, Corey, who's amazing. He, takes care of every Friday night being there to make sure tickets are being sold and all that stuff. We are in the middle of defining some new roles. We would like to get a youth program director. We would like to get a community relations director to try and branch out more in the community. We do have another one of our company members who is, I forget their official title, but they're in charge of company member relations. So they'll make sure, they help plan our Christmas party or our we'll do some after show events, and they're kind of in charge of all of that. Now, me personally,
Hmm.
I wish I was better at like chunking my time. Like these hours I do this, these hours I do that. Currently, I'm teaching 1 night a week. So I teach Tuesday nights, level 3 improv. Tonight, I subbed in to teach the youth program. I will usually do invoicing, and I will do overall accounting stuff once a week. I try to do that on Mondays for an hour just to make sure everything is caught up. And then I'm really monitoring the email, which just reminds me we got a workshop request on Friday I have not responded to yet, so I will do that after this discussion. Um, so yeah, it's some weeks it's a lot. Some weeks it's meetings every single day with people who want to collaborate, having to say no to a lot of people, and some weeks it's a little quieter. This week it's we are recording this on a Monday for those who may not know, and I've already am backed up with stuff that I need to do for the theater.
So, you define. Thank you for defining the roles. Um, I so is it whose responsibility is it? You talk about the brand. You brought that up. The brand is very important. That's why we don't want to grow too fast about
Mhm.
establishing the brand. Who is in charge of brand management and then promoting that brand in order to sell more tickets? So you can define them as like the marketing department or however you want
Yeah.
to define them, but who does that or who's that responsible? Probably one of the most important roles I would say is
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Marketing falls under me. We do have a uh, official title, I think, is PR manager. He is a PR/ theater major at Penn State. He's great. He's paid as a contractor to keep our social media brand up, do our weekly newsletter, and help us just kind of strategize on where we want to kind of spend our money.
Okay.
We also contract out a digital marketing consultant who I meet with once every other week to think about the budget that we want to put towards advertising and where we can get the most bang for our buck. Even though shows are not, we don't make a lot of money on the shows. It's the top of the sales funnel for the business people listening.
Hmm.
People come into the theater and they say, wow, this is really cool. I'd like to take a class. Or people come into the theater and they hear our pitch on coming into their business to do a creative workshop, and then they hire us.
Oh, nice.
And so that's where it falls under my purview. We would like to have that as a different role at some point. Like I said, we had a meeting as the three remaining owners. We had a meeting and I proposed, if we had unlimited funds, what would be all the positions we would hire for? So let's get that out of the way. And then we can start to decide, okay, who can take those roles, who can take those tasks, and who do we need to hire out? And if we can't yet due to finances, at what point can we? So there's a lot of business at the back end of it.
And I apologize, I'm kind of going out of order. And
No,
also,
it's
you may
fine.
have mentioned this, but you mentioned that when you guys started, you wanted to to get into the Blue Brick Theater, everyone put in $500. Da, 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 da. Then you said there was $30,000 renovations that need to be done. Where'd you get the funding from? Was that through
Yeah.
sponsorships, or did you go to get a loan?
No. So, myself and one of the other founders was able to give a loan of 15,000 each.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've been getting paid back on that with interest since the beginning. So that's the debt
I see.
on our balance sheet, which now is, it started at 30, and after, a couple of years of payments with very low interest, and we extended, I think it's a 5, maybe even a 7-year loan, because we just wanted to make it really low payments. We're not trying to make a bunch of money off of it. I think that's probably down to like 23,000 uh on the side of things,
So when you
liabilities.
when you think about the 1 year plan, 3 year plans, 5 year plans, and you sit down and you're talking to your wife about where this direction is going, do you what I guess what is your ultimate goal? Is it to maximize profits as best as you can? Is it establish something that will be around the community long after you're gone? What is the objective for, like, if you wanted to tell me, like, hey, these are next, you already kind of explained what your next steps are as far as kind of creating more roles in community outreach and that kind of thing, but as far as the stability and sustainability of this Blue Brick Theater in the next decade, what are you kind of focusing on as the thing that you want to be known for?
Yeah. Uh, Let me take that two ways. The first way is sustainability wise. That is why we are trying to come up with these roles. We want to come up with roles and processes and have the community that we've already built help us with that.
Mm-hmm.
So if, one day the three of us are out for lunch and a bus barrels through the restaurant and, wipes us out, that it can continue on without us. Like that's what we want. Kind of thinking more legacy wise, or what's the goal? My goal is to have it's a staple in the community. I want when people get accepted to Penn State and they ask other people who have gone to Penn State, what do I like, what should I do?
Mm-hmm.
And they say, "Oh, you've got to go to the Lion Shrine,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to make sure that you go to the Blue White Weekend and tailgate, and
Mm-hmm.
you should check out a show at the Blue Brick Theater." Like that's where I want us to rank. I want us to rank in the you ask people, "I'm going to State College, Pennsylvania, and I need things to do," and they say, "You need to go to a show at the Blue Brick Theater. It is top-notch comedy. It is top-notch improv. They're great. That's where you need to be. That's where I want. That's what I want."
Would you entertain franchise options if you guys were successful enough? Would you entertain something along those lines, or because then you would have to kind of, relinquish some control and not know what's going on in the other shop? Would you be entertaining that, or do you like the fact that you can control this theater and
Ooh.
understand, like, the brand that you're building is not being jeopardized because it's 100% under your purview?
Yeah, I think that would be tough. But I would be open for somebody or people who I knew had the same vision,
Mm-hmm.
opening up a Blue Brick Theater in a different town. I think our model really only works in a smaller market, because I would be afraid that in a bigger market you have to kind of, really, really, it's not doing bad things, but like
Mm-hmm.
you can't give, like right now, anybody who wants to take our classes for free, we just say, please sign up for our scholarship and we'll give it to you.
Mm-hmm.
We give out, our goal was to give out 1,000 free tickets in our first 3 years of shows. Uh, and it's really hard to do that when there's four other theaters and everyone's kind of competing for space and
Yeah.
everything like that. But are there smaller college markets like Ann Arbor, or um, the Raleigh area,
Mm-hmm.
or College Station, Texas? Are there other small college towns that might not have a physical location for improv that could run this kind of community org?
Mm-hmm.
I think so. I believe that would be many, many years down the road, but I wouldn't be shut off to it.
So, are you also thinking about, and I want to talk about, before I let you go, I do want to talk about the festival that you guys have coming up. I think
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. And again, a lot of work goes into something like that. But just understanding from the fact that you have this theater in which you guys have done a great job building and sustaining, and the shows and the workshops and the classes are all part of what this theater is about. Do you plan, what is your next expansion? What is the next thing? If you said like your fact, like, hey, we're the only comedy venue that exists in State College, and even the Bryce Jordan Center, if they get signed, something like that, they're getting different people than what you guys are trying to get. What what is your next thing? What is the next thing to kind of raise the profitability? And then I want to kind of go into how, I have two follow-up questions that kind of take a different road about how running your own business works, but kind of tell me what the next phase is to kind of
Uh,
rake in more dollars.
yeah, I think the next phase is to expand to Saturday nights.
Okay.
Right now, Saturday nights are mostly dark. We keep it open for special events. The problem with that is right now we're running about 1 to 2 Saturday night shows.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's an out of town comic that's coming through. Sometimes it's a special improv show. Sometimes it's a fundraiser show, but it's sporadic, so our attendance is a lot lower.
Okay.
It's very important in business in general. The best advertising is word of mouth,
Yeah.
and it's easy for people to say, "Oh, the show's on Friday at 7. It's every Friday at 7."
Yeah.
It's hard to say, oh, well, they have a bunch of comedians, but you got to check their calendar because who knows when it is, right? That's a
Yeah.
problem that I believe Wisecrackers has, which is why Wisecrackers has had a tough time selling tickets, even at our theater.
Mm-hmm.
When we have a 2,000 person, pretty active mailing list,
Mm-hmm.
with an open rate of 30%, like that's really, really high because we have a
Yeah.
very active community. But we still struggle to get 50 people in there for a stand-up show at $20 a ticket, which is a very reasonable,
Mm-hmm.
reasonable ticket price. So I think our next area of expansion would be to go to. We'll also have something going on every Saturday night. It
Okay.
might not be our normal shows. We might
Mm-hmm.
just say, hey, on Saturdays it's $20 comedy. On Saturdays it's something a little different. And it might be a stand-up show that's being hosted by Wisecrackers. It might be a stand-up show that's hosted by us. It might be an open mic. Who knows what it is?
Mm-hmm.
But there will be something every Saturday night.
Okay.
That's the goal of that's probably our next step of expansion. And I don't know if that will come as early as this fall, probably as late as the following fall. I think if we've been around for 3 years and we have not been able to expand to 2 nights, then we have to rethink our business plan.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I do want to ask about the Wisecrackers thing. And, full transparency, I do work for Wisecrackers and love the Bruce family. And
Yeah.
I do want to ask, though, it's like, um, you have the leverage there. You have the space that definitely a space for performing. What is your deal with Wisecrackers? Like, do you take a percentage of their ticket sales? I mean, you have to be making, if your only revenue is if ticket sales, how do you broker that with almost like a competing comedy? I mean, it's like two comedy
Yeah.
clubs in one venue.
Absolutely. We basically rent them the space with a percentage of ticket sales.
Okay.
A percentage of ticket sales goes to the organizer. A percentage of ticket sales goes back to Wisecrackers, the brand itself, and then a percentage of the ticket sales stays with us. So we
Okay.
make a profit. We make a profit off of it. It's an incentive for all of us to sell. Um, it's a lot of work. It's not the margins are very, very thin because, like I said, even if we max out, we're only putting 60 people in there.
Mm-hmm.
And the I'm a big fan of Wisecrackers as well. I know you do a lot of shows up in the. I've seen you on the marquee up there for
Marquee.
the
How
casino,
generous of you.
the casino one. It's just there's a lot of headwinds
Yeah.
because it's not consistent.
Yeah.
So it's only 5 weekends, and like sometimes
Which I don't understand, to be honest, why they
yeah,
just do it 5 weekends. I
I
mean,
know,
I've heard the reason behind it. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
yeah. And the scheduling this spring wasn't the greatest. One was scheduled the same night as a Kenny Chesney concert. One was scheduled the
College,
same this
nonetheless.
yeah, yeah. Another one was scheduled the same night as the big, Ohio State, Penn State wrestling match in the
Mhm.
BJC. So scheduling wasn't the greatest. One of them was on a Friday, then one was on a Saturday, and
Mhm.
like that stuff kind of like gets us.
Oh,
So
so you do give up your Friday nights to Wisecrackers?
no,
Oh,
we did
they
it
did
late
it
night.
as
We
like
did
an house
9
club.
9 p.m.
Okay.
And that is something that we have held steady on.
Hmm.
We've had multiple organizations be like, "Hey, we would love like for this to happen. How about on a Friday?" And I was like, "No, that's our show."
Hmm.
And they're like, "Oh, but like we can make you more money." And I'm like, "That's not the point. Like the
Yeah.
point is we do shows every Friday night at 7, and we're gonna keep it that way."
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but like trying to get comics to come to the middle of state college, like you've got to get them enough gigs that it makes it worth it.
Yeah, but you have
Um,
something. In the world of supply and demand, there is overwhelming supply and very little demand for stages. So you do hold an upper hand in that situation, which I'm kind of surprised. Like for even for a Saturday night, even I would be entertained to pay you a flat rentals fee, knowing that I have I know people will stay college and then just make hopefully that plus whatever on the tickets. Like I would take the door and you would take, whatever you charge as the rental fee. I'm surprised that hasn't entered the business, the next business
it
model
does
2.0.
it does at times. We have people that reach out about renting all of the time. I would rather share the risk and the reward.
Mm-hmm.
We have comics coming through in May, the weekend before our festival. We have two comics who are doing a road trip. And we have a pretty standard deal. Pretty standard deal is you gotta give us $200 because that's what's gonna cost for us to pay someone to do tech and pay someone to do front of house
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that our lights stay on. And then we'll split it. We'll give you as the performer 60% and we'll take 40%.
Mm-hmm.
You get to choose what you want to sell the tickets for and everything like that. But, we get a minimum of 200. And if it ends up, if hopefully we can sell 50 tickets at $20 and it's, 600, 400, and then that's fine. We make a small amount. Again,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say, hey, it's $500 a night to rent the space, which I probably could do.
Mm-hmm.
But then if we get into a business model where rentals become key, then I have to start renting to groups and organizations that don't fall underneath our mission and our vision of what
Yeah.
comedy should be and what comedy could be.
Mm-hmm.
There are also many spaces in State College and in many other places where the branding gets confusing. What goes on there? What happens at XYZ theater?
Yeah.
And this week alone, I've turned down two people who have been like, "Oh, I'm looking for a space to like." One guy's like, "I'm a musician. I'm looking for a space to play." And I'm like, "Nope, we don't do music. Like,
Mm-hmm.
unless you have a way to make it about comedy, we don't do that." We had someone last week was like, "Oh, I spin like vinyl records and would love to do like a." I was like, "No, not unless there's some comedy behind it, because I don't I want the Blue Brick Theater is where you go to
Yeah.
experience joy and comedy
Mm-hmm.
uh, in State College, which is
Yeah.
also all the stand-ups that come in. I make sure, especially going forward, I'm going to watch the tape. And if they're doing low-hanging fruit jokes about, racist or
Mm-hmm.
sexist
Punching
or
down what
anything
they
like
would say.
that,
Yeah.
I'm just, that's not the brand of comedy that we want to see here. And I'm,
That's
I'm not
good.
against it. I'm not against it. You want to go and watch some, comics who yell at the audience and make fun of people, like you go do you. But like, we're not going to be holding the roast of Mark Stoudemire or anything like that, where people are ripping you apart.
No, no, I mean, and it's good because I think a lot of people in the early stages, I mean, because your theater is only 2 years old, so it's still so infant, it's like they make those sacrifices. So it's really
Mhm.
cool that you guys have that code, that you don't fall through. That's really, really cool thing to see.
Yeah.
I do want to ask and you're welcome not to answer this question, but like, so you had a very profitable job as a, I assume all this stuff. I'm not in the world of professorisms and state college and that, and then you will go into small business in which you're not even the sole proprietor, you're one of three. Tell me kind of the sacrifices personally that you've had to make. I mean, I know your wife's involved in the theater, which is really cool, but like this, I mean, you're gone. I'm assuming you're gone every Friday night, and I guess she's there as well. But like, tell me kind of the sacrifices. So this whole I want to do this series about doing more of what you're doing, because these big
Yeah.
clubs like Punchline are owned by Live Nation. Well, I
Yeah.
think the where the meat is in these small places. But so I want to do a balanced thing. So tell me some of the sacrifices you've had to give up as a result of giving up that full-time professor job and going to small business.
Yeah. I mean, the sacrifice is mainly financial,
Mm-hmm.
uh, hugely financial, not just now, but future finances. I'm very lucky and very privileged that I have a wife who has a full-time job, who carries the health insurance and the retirement plan, and is very willing to do this with me. we decided early on in our relationship that we did not want to have children. So that saves a lot of money.
Yes, it
And
does.
we also were very privileged and got very lucky that we were able to afford a down payment on a house pre the most recent like run up in values. We were able to sell that house for a relatively decent profit and equity,
Mhm.
which then led us into our new house, which is walkable to the theater, walkable to campus. And I've picked up some adjunct teaching jobs to like just make sure that we can keep everything kind of set. But I mean, you're right. Like I just handed in my taxes today,
Mhm.
and the amount of money I took from Happy Valley Improv was just north of $10,000. Right?
Okay.
Like, and my guess is I'm working 20 hours a week for the theater. If we're talking about the hours that I'm teaching, the hours uh that I'm going in and doing all the books and anything, it's got to be close to 20 hours a week. So you can do the math and see what the
Yeah.
hourly rate is on that. Um,
But unlike Penn State, this is on your schedule.
no,
No one's telling you what to do. No one's
no one's telling me.
micromanaging. Are you happy, James, in the
Oh yeah.
direction you took?
No, I'm definitely happy, and we have the resources to be able to continue to enjoy the things that we enjoy. And we just the savings account has way less figures than it did before. Um, but there was no improv here in State College beforehand.
Yeah,
So if we weren't going to build it, who was?
very true.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. The last question I'm going to talk about the festival because I think that's really cool that you guys are doing that. How and then I'll let you go, James. I got you go get that email for the guy that for the workshop. Um, so tell me what it's like to put. This is your first year festival. It looks like first festival. I mean that you guys have put on, correct?
This is our second annual.
Oh,
Yep.
second annual. I'm sorry. I thought I said first. Okay, apologies. So kind
Okay.
of what is the amount of work that goes into that in terms of the number of hours the three you guys have to put in just to plan the the logistics of moving people into state college for a festival like
Yeah.
this?
It's a lot. I don't know the actual hours. I was going to track hours this year, but I get stressed out about tracking hours and I forget, and then it stresses me out more, so I just don't do it. It's the first year was a lot. This year we have a lot of the infrastructure in place, so it's not as bad. However, we have more teams and more people coming in.
Hmm.
It's a lot about community relationships. We are going to like after each show, we'll have an after party. So we have partnerships with like Cafe 210 and the Hyatt Bar and Bill Pickles Tap Room. We have
Hmm.
partnership with F45 to do a group workout. We're going to be going into a yoga studio. We have a local guy who gives like a downtown tour. So we have all these other things, and those are all built off of relationships, and
Hmm.
and those don't come they don't come free. They are lots of time spending talking with people and saying, hey, do you want to partner with us? We are extremely grateful for the Happy Valley Adventure Bureau, which is the tourism organization in State College. They offer up a tourism grant every year to help with marketing of festivals and trying to bring people into State College, which makes sense. That they're the tourism board. That's their goal. So we're able to secure funding to pay for basically all of our advertising and help us bring in big name instructors that will then draw people from around the globe to apply for our festival. We
Oh,
had
cool.
applications come from as far as Madrid. And after we went through and looked at all of our submissions, which we had over 40 submissions.
Okay.
After we went through.
Who has the pleasure of going through the submission tapes?
Yep. So we have a recruitment
Okay.
committee. We have one of our company members, Brandon, is our director of recruitment. So him
Hmm.
and his committee, along with Nate, our artistic director, to make sure what we put up on our stage is what we want.
Hmm.
They spent a weekend going through and watching all the audition tapes,
Hmm.
and then whittling it down. We've got 4 nights of shows. So we've got 24 or 3 nights of shows with 4 shows each night. So we have 24 spots.
All at Blue Brick, correct?
all at the Blue Brick Theater. And so we had 24 spots. Six of them are already taken by either Happy Valley Improv, or we do community jams, or we do like our youth program. So we had 18 spots to fill, and we made offers to 18. A couple people couldn't take it, so we ended up filling that with some other local groups. But yeah, we have a team from San Diego coming. We have a team from San Francisco coming, multiple from New York, Baltimore, Chicago. And it's going to be great. We're 6 weeks away, and
I
it's
know.
time to go out and try and get some solid sponsorships, more community involvement, and the I stopped my adjunct work the first week of May, and so those I'll probably be putting in 40 to 60 hours a week those 2 weeks leading up, just making sure the gift bags are all set, making sure everyone has the right email, making sure the name tags are ready. And then we hit the ground running May 18th. Last year it was, I don't know how we're going to top last year. I actually don't think we are. Last year we just hit lightning in a bottle, and we're just going to continue to try and put on a solid improv festival for our community and for other communities around the country.
what is what is one thing that someone who wants to put on a festival should know that's maybe not very apparent? Because everyone probably knows, like, hey, we probably we need to make sure that submissions are fair and they're following the rules, and we can get them there and they places to stay and all that kind of stuff. But what's one thing? I don't know if it's like an insurance thing or.
I think there's this festival in Tampa called the Countdown Improv Festival, and it's ran by this duo, Kelly and Justin. They're great.
Hmm.
They have a huge website that talks about the submission guidelines.
Hmm.
I submitted to that festival this year, and it takes 10 minutes to read through their guidelines, but it covers everything. Ours doesn't really. And that led us into a little bit of an issue of someone posting on Facebook when their team was not accepted. Like, they didn't really understand what, like, if you were so full, why didn't you stop submissions? Why did I have to pay $45 and it's non-refundable? All this other stuff. So I think the main thing is being as detailed, if not more, than what the Countdown Improv Festival does. Of, here are our submission guidelines, and then giving expectations of, like, look, we only have 18 spots to fill because we're a small theater and we're only one location, and we anticipate getting 50 to 100 applications. So just because we say no to you might not mean that you're not good improvisers. I mean, it might mean that, but it might just mean that, like, you're a 3-person group
Yeah.
and we already have 5 other 3-person groups. So we're trying to take a 2-person group or a,
Yeah.
or a 5-person group.
Looking
Uh,
diversity of acts. Yeah.
and so I just assumed that people would be cool with, like, it's theater, so you audition and sometimes you don't get it.
Yeah.
But we had to deal with that very, very minor PR issue of someone posting about it, which was a very quick fix. You just say, "Hey, I'm sorry. Here's your money back," and see you around. But yeah, that's what I would say. If you're planning a festival, make sure you are very concrete on, there's no refunds, and here's the policies, and here's the process.
And what was something that you learned from the last festival to either not repeat this festival or to maybe exploit or emphasize on as a way of
Yeah.
doing something better?
Yeah, we changed. So last year we gave everybody a T-shirt.
Hmm.
It's something small. We just gave everybody a T-shirt as part of their submission.
Hmm.
Um, and then I realized, like, not everybody cares about having the T-shirts.
Yeah.
So what I can do is I can charge a lot less for the fee, and then just let them add a T-shirt on if they want.
Hmm.
That was kind of something different that we did. We learned about. We tried to do longer shows on Saturday, on the last night, Saturday night. We decided we're just going to make all the shows the same length.
Hmm.
Um, Nothing big. I think we put in a lot of work. Volunteers, company members. We lose money on the festival for sure, because like I said, our theater is just small. Like,
Hmm.
if we're bringing in 40 people from around the country. We have 20 people in our own company. That's 60.
Hmm.
We can only set up for 70 seats.
Hmm.
So, like, the last night when everybody's here and everybody wants to see the best teams, we can sell 10 tickets.
Wait, so
Right?
do you pay the performers if they get to
Uh,
the? I was about
No,
to say, okay.
yeah. So for the festival, it's pretty well
I'm
known
sorry, you say
in
you lose
most.
money because there's so few paying seats that exist.
Correct.
You gotta you gotta
And
bounce those freebies out of there.
right. And we do, we have a great relationship with the hotel right across the street. The Hyatt
Hmm.
gives, our rate is 104 a night for a
Hmm.
weekend in State College. Like, and you can fit up to 6 people in those rooms because they've got 2 beds and a pull-out couch.
Hmm.
We do ask for people to give us $25 if they come to the festival to what that gets them into all the after parties. That gets them a wristband to every single show that is going to be put on. We're having a live recording of a podcast going on, which they get to go to. So there's a lot of value in that. Some
Nice.
people did, some people last year were like, I think it's kind of icky that like we're performing and we're paying to perform.
Hmm.
But that's just kind of how festivals are, like to make ends meet. We
Hmm.
do have a scholarship option, which we had last year as well, which is a $0 fee if you honestly can't pay the $25 or you feel
Hmm.
against it. Like there's no judgment at all to
Hmm.
say, you know what, I'm gonna just choose the $0. I think next year I don't know if we're gonna do that submission wise. So there are some festivals who do no submission fees, but then I hear, they get like 200 submissions. So if you charge 25 to $45, you got to really like want to go to the festival
Yeah.
to apply. So
Yeah.
we'll see. I'm sure there'll be things we learn this year, and as long as we're doing right by as best we can, I have confidence in it.
Yeah. Well, I hope everyone checks out the Happy Valley Improv Festival, XL Fest,
That's right.
from May 18th to May 21st at the Blue Brick Theater. And guys, please visit happyvalleyimprov.com for all future upcoming shows and workshops and classes. James, thank you so much for joining me today. This was very educational and a lot of fun. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. I hope you have a great night.
I appreciate it. You too, man. Take care.